Forest Lake, it's good to be with you today. I have a devotional for you. I was reading in the book of First Peter, and I came across this verse I've heard a bunch of times before, but it's always kind of caused me to pause a little bit and think about it, and I wanted to share it with you today. It's First Peter 4, verse 8. It says this: above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sin. It's a Bible verse about love. Like, all right, who doesn't love a Bible verse about love? This is something we can all, get behind. Even if you're not a follower of Jesus, you can get behind this idea of loving each other. But love is a tricky topic. It's different than we often think it is. Sometimes we think love is just kind of like a nice feeling we have towards someone else. But if you've ever had any friendship or relationship that's lasted more than, a month, you'll probably learn that love can't just be good feelings towards someone, because when you love someone over any amount of time, you will be confronted with the fact that that person is not lovable. Maybe they don't deserve your love. Maybe you feel like they are not that great of a person. Talk to anyone who's been married, right? So if you've been married, if your definition of love is to always have a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling about the person you're married to, well, your marriage probably won't last, because that's not really love. Why? Because the person you marry is imperfect. And guess what? You're imperfect. And they will disappoint you. You will disappoint them. They won't be what you need, and you won't be what they need. And that's why, oddly enough, it's easier to love strangers. I love the people over in Europe. I love that group of people. I love the Chinese. It's easier to say I love those people I don't even know, sometimes more than it is to say I love the person who I work next to, or I love my family member. For a relationship to function properly, for any relationship to work, especially a marriage, love requires something else. Actually, this is part of what love is, and that is forgiveness. Without love that is able to forgive our imperfections, our sin really, will sabotage all of our relationships. So when Peter says love covers a multitude of sin, he's saying that love, the real kind of love, the lasting kind of love, deals with the sin of other people. Now that phrase, love covers a multitude of sin, is kind of an interesting phrase. And we hear language like that. I think of like working on a school project with a number of people, or maybe in a business meeting where someone, maybe a leader says, all right, who's got the marketing covered, or who's got the food covered? And then someone will raise their hand and say, oh, I've got that covered. I've got that covered. And what they're saying is, I'm completing that project. I'm doing that. I'm finishing something. I'm paying it off. And that's what Peter's talking about. This is what true love does. It covers sin. When you love someone, when you're able to forgive them, what it actually is doing is it's covering the sin. In other words, it's paying for the sin. Jesus is our primary example of what this means. To cover sin means to love the person enough to forgive them. Listen to what Jesus says while he's being executed on the cross. This is his concern in the middle of being tortured to death. This is what he says. He prays, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Why does Jesus take the time to ask God to forgive those who are killing him? Well, forgiveness is the reason why Jesus goes to the cross in the first place. Now, who needs forgiveness? Well, of course, the people who are murdering Jesus, the one who never sinned. That's a particularly egregious sin that Jesus asks for forgiveness. But not just the people who killed Jesus. All of us are in a position before God where we need forgiveness. Why? Because we've broken his law. We've sinned. All of us, the Bible says, have fallen short of the glory of God. And so the best example of this type of love that covers sin is Jesus himself. To love someone truly is to forgive them of the sin that they commit against you. And that's what Jesus does on the cross. Therefore, we can have a forgiven and full relationship with God. But what Peter is saying is, we're supposed to love others in this way as well. Jesus isn't the only one who does this. We are called, if you are a follower of Jesus, to live this way as well. That's why to love someone is to forgive them. And the reason why forgiveness is so painful, the reason why most of us avoid forgiving other people is because it's painful. Because when you forgive someone, what you are doing is you're taking their wrongdoing upon yourself and no longer requiring them to pay what they owe you. That's why forgiveness is so hard. You are essentially paying off the debt that they owe to you, and that is painful. And that's why going to the cross was so painful. It wasn't just about the pain of being tortured. It was about paying the debt, the thing that we can't do. We can't pay our debt to God. We can't do enough to pay off our debt, but Jesus Christ does on our behalf. We owe God something. We owe him a debt, and Jesus pays that off for us. Now, who in your life are you holding unforgiveness towards? Who are you not forgiving? Who are you harboring bitterness against? Peter says, loving them covers their sin. Loving them deeply covers their sin. Forgive that person. And you will find new relationships and a new life. All right, with that,